You are listening to a repeat of The Exchange in association with Rathkeil House Hotel at the heart of the community.
Now, I'm joined in studio by Noel Noonan, and Noel Noonan's wife died from motor neurone disease in the last 2 years, less than 2 years ago. You're very welcome, Noel, to the programme. Thank you very much for coming in. When I spoke to you the other day, I said it may not be that easy to talk about your personal circumstances, but in fact you said you're absolutely happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
But first, I suppose we'll talk about motor neurone disease and what it is.
Yeah, just before I say anything, let me clarify that I'm not a medical person, so whatever I say is just from my own experience. I suppose the best way to describe motor neurone disease, and coming from my own background, is your brain is connected to every single muscle in your body. And whether it's your big toe, your small toe, fingers, whatever you decide to do, your brain has to transmit the messages to those. If you want to tap your finger, if you want to wiggle your toe, somewhere or other, the message has to get from your brain to these muscles. It goes down through your motor neuron cells, and it's these cells that die. Your muscles don't die, they just waste away because of lack of use. And that's what motor neurone disease is. It just kills the cells between your brain and every muscle in your body.
It's a neurological condition.
Yeah, that's it.
And really, we know, I suppose, there are some very well-known people who suffer from motor neurone disease. And of course, you go through stages. I suppose many people will be familiar with Colin Murray from RTE. But there are many, many people who suffer from this condition. And it goes through phases, Noel.
It does. It seems to, once again, I'm not a medical person, but in my own experience of it, it seems to affect men and women, obviously. It seems to affect women a little bit more frequently than men. It's certainly, as a rule of thumb, but not guaranteed, cast in stone, it seems to work its way through women a little bit more quicker than it does men. I think women generally, again, get it in their tongue, their speech, their throat first. Men seem to get it, as a rule of thumb, not always, in their legs first. And it seems to work its way through women a little bit more quicker than it does men, as a rule of thumb.
And works its way through the body, essentially.
Yeah, it does. It does. It affects, you can be very... My wife, for example, Denise, she had a version of it called bulbar. And basically what it was, it affected her speech first. But over a period of 4 years, it just went through every single
4 years.
Of her body. Yeah, 4 years.
Now, from when Denise, your late wife, first displayed symptoms,
yes,
to when she died, was all of 4 years.
Denise was given a 3 to 5 year life expectancy, and she lasted exactly 4 full years.
Now, we should say you were a young man, you were a young married couple, young children, when this condition was diagnosed in Denise.
Yeah.
On a personal level, because you said you're here to talk about your own personal experience, to let people understand what it's like to live with motor neurone disease. Your own first reactions, both of you, when you heard.
Yeah, I can tell you there, I thought about it in the car coming out. Denise had it for 4 years. For the first 2 years, life was okay. We lived with it. We went on great holidays. We gave life a right good rattle. The third year, it started to get difficult when she gave up her job, when she went into a wheelchair, stuff like that. Her speech was really affected then. The fourth year was extremely difficult. That's roughly my kind of rule there. It was just, it beggared belief how tough it was. It really was difficult and hard.
Because even when the first 2 years were good, you had really a death sentence hanging over your head.
You do.
How did Denise, because you've young children, they had to be included in this whole...
What I will tell you is my wife was an extraordinary person, an extraordinary woman. She actually diagnosed herself, I think she was officially diagnosed with, say, in December, but on her holidays, the previous August on her holidays, because Denise's mother had it, she knew herself she had it. In hindsight, looking back...
She recognised the symptoms?
Oh no, she knew herself, but still never said it. I remember, it's only a tiny little thing, but we were on our holidays in Achill. I remember saying to my wife, God, were you drinking, or your speech is slurred? She got extremely cross with me. The following month, I realised there was something wrong. The following week, 2 weeks later at tops, she was diagnosed because of her family history. There was no messing about. It's amazing that when she went to have when her mother was very elderly, a very brave woman, very tough woman, herself and Denise and her older brother Derry went to Dublin with her mother to have their diagnosis confirmed. At that time, Professor Orla Hardiman said to them, it doesn't come down, because obviously the obvious question is, does it come down through genes? And they were told, no.
that is not an
but
inherited
that diagnosis
condition.
has since changed.
Really?
Yeah, there's a very small chance it will come to. A lot of Denise's family had that her extended family had that illness or something related to it.
I think maybe many people, Noel, mightn't realise that. And of course, as you said, the thinking wasn't like that all along, that it actually can be in the genes.
It can be in your gene, yeah. But there's not a very high percent. I mean, not everybody gets it. It's that gene is going to come down. It is very, very, but the thinking has changed on it from it just comes on you for whatever reason, to maybe to 10% or a very, very small percent, it may come down the gene.
The one thing that shocked me is that funding is very poor.
Yeah.
All funding is raised by the people involved.
It seems to be a kind of, in terms of fundraising, motor neuron disease seems to be a kind of a niche market, in my opinion. When Denise was diagnosed, our community in Limerick, our friends, relations, community neighbours, they got together and they organised a fundraiser, and it was fantastic. In our case, we didn't attend, but every penny, I think it was 14 or 15,000 euro, was given to the Motor Neurone Disease Association. But the person dies, it moves on, hopefully to a different community. The way cancer has constant fundraising and MS and these places. Motor neuron disease doesn't seem to work like that. It seems to work, if a person has it, it shocks the community so much that they all gather together, band together, and do a fantastic fundraiser. That person passes on, and the chances are nobody in the community has it.
It's such a rare condition.
I think at the time when Denise was diagnosed, she was number 165, I think, that had it in the country.
So it's a very small group.
Yeah, I think the number hasn't gone up much since then, even though it has gone up a small bit.
Well, for instance, 80% of your income is from fundraising. That's a huge amount of money to raise.
Huge amount.
Because, and we'll talk about the practicalities of what fundraising can do in a minute. But for people with it, and at different levels of it, Noel, and you, of course, having lived with it with your wife for 4 years, you're very familiar with the progression of the condition.
Yeah.
Talk to me, though, about the family. Your daughters were young. How you managed. Did you hold down a job yourself the whole time? How did helpers, carers, support systems? Talk about that.
Yeah, what I can tell you is there's a saying out there that children are very resilient. I used to hate that, but actually that is the truest thing ever spoken. Whatever it is about kids, what I've learnt about them is, as long as Denise was at home, they never gave one sugar what she looked like, if she could speak or not.
As long as Mammy
was there in the corner when she came home, they were happy. And really happy until the day she died. Until the day she passed away. As regards job and that, for whatever reason, such a horrendous disease. My own personal company, Green Star, who I work for, they literally left me off unofficially I used to be seen for weeks on end. And they were fantastic.
Work-wise, they were quite understanding, but you were able to hold on to your job.
Yeah.
Because in the longer,
I
was going to say, Noel, in the longer term, of course, that was terribly important, because you needed to have an income to support your children. When Denise passed away, and when you had to make a new life for yourself. But talk about the carers, talk about the support systems, talk about what came into your house to support you.
I can tell you, the Irish I was just thinking about that again, the car coming out. Denise had a couple of phases in her illness. The first phase was we went to see a lady called Helena Moore. She was our neurologist in Limerick. So we had her for several months. We then went, the illness moved on a bit, so she faded away, and Milford Hospice came in. When Milford Hospice came in, roughly around that time, I think the Irish Wheelchair Association and Home Help came into our lives. And but overriding all that, just to plug them, was the Motor Neurone Disease Association of Ireland. They were there at all times. Financial help was given. I remember myself and my wife had fierce pride. We do not want financial help,
And that is actually very honest of you to say it, because that is one issue that, people like to be independent, like to think we can do this on our own, but in fact, you're saying you cannot do this on your own.
No, you cannot. It is impossible. It beggars belief how difficult it is. I was very, very lucky. I was married to a lady who, when she got over the initial shock of it, she said, "That's it, I'm done. No more moaning for me." Got on with her life right to the very end. So her husband was the person who was cracking up under pressure.
And on that very thing about the pride thing, Noel, I mean, you have to be open to accepting the help. as the disease progresses.
Can I tell you, you're so right. At the very start, when Home Help and the Irish Wheelchair, I know I'm here to promote motor, but they are just extraordinary.
That's all a very important part of the whole.
They are extraordinary people who came into our lives, who I'm still friendly with to this day. When the door opened one day and these people came in, I remember saying to Denise, God, how are we going to cope with all this? But it was the best thing we ever did. They were just amazing people who were worth their weight in gold. They became part of our lives. We had some great crack. When Denise went into a wheelchair, she just made the decision, look, do you know what, I'm going to stay at home. But we also, on the other side, we opened our door to anybody who wanted to come in, providing there was laughter and a bit of crack and no doom and gloom. So our house was full from morning to night with physiotherapists, with speech therapists, with Home Help, with everybody. It just was a great house and
the
great
neighbours as well, of course.
And
because
neighbours,
life
friends,
tended to
family.
be, or tried to be as normal as possible, because you had the children to consider.
Yeah.
But that flow of people through your house continued.
It's just unbelievable, yeah. But Home Help and Irish Wheel, I mean, they do the hard yards.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, the Motor Neurone Disease Association, as we said, is quite dependent for 80%, which I think is a huge amount of money to try and raise. Because whilst you say all the supports were in, the Motor Neurone Disease Association, and they also know, of course, specifically what's required. No,
they did everything from as such, giving us financial help. I remember, I think I said to you a minute ago, we refused. It still came, and as it turned out, it was just fantastic. It paid for extra home help. It was just money that we really appreciated getting to this day. That's why I'm here. Every penny that goes. Something else that was very important about the Motor Neurone Disease Association was that when wheelchairs started coming, when Denise needed speech aids, when she needed various things for her arms, her legs, and pillows for this and pillows for that, and special beds, everything came without paperwork. It just came.
Things appeared for you.
Yeah. Nothing was ever a problem, a fuss. They just recognised thing on. I think they were a bit sneaky. They recognised that Denise will need a special bed maybe a month's time.
So they arrived.
A bed came, a wheelchair came before she needed.
Which really, we must say, at a time of great stress in your life, and you're making it all sound very positive, Noel, and it's wonderful for you that you can. Yeah. But it's a time, and I know for you it was too, of great stress, where you want to try and keep some kind of a semblance of normality, knowing that the death sentence is there, and that life to be as comfortable as possible for Denise. All of those things coming in through motor neuron disease eases that passage considerably for the family, doesn't it?
It does.
As you say, it appears.
It
things
does. Yes.
arrive.
Yeah.
You can get
everything arrived with no bureaucracy, no paperwork, no fuss, no hassle.
Now,
that's huge. When everything in your life is so difficult, to have these things, every time you got a bed, or it was a little victory.
Yeah.
You know, that's how we look at it.
Now, that's why you're here today, to talk about drinking tea for MND. And it seems to be such a little thing to do for such a huge cause.
Yeah. What I suppose really the problem it has, thanks be to God, is there's so few people in Ireland have it, and they're so scattered, if you like. So there isn't one particular area where there's a lot of, like similar to cancer, whatever. So it doesn't have a profile in an area unless somebody has it. And that's it's a niche fundraiser, but it is so important. They're such a small little group of people, such a small organisation. They do such unbelievable work to people who are really in a jam. Who are really in bother. And like financial aid, counselling, I can tell you terrible things about me ringing a particular nurse saying, how long has she got? I can't do this anymore. Imagine asking that. I mean, they are just fabulous people. I can't speak high enough about them.
And of course, the other thing is the saddest day, of course, when Denise finally died.
Yeah.
Now, you were left literally holding the baby with two small children. You have to get on with your life. It's not as if Motor Neurone Disease Association disappears out of your life on that day. They still lend, and you talk about counselling, they still lend support.
They do, but I suppose in my own case, if I'm being very honest, I remember when Denise passed away, I ran away as far and as fast as I could from motor neuron disease. But
of course.
Now that we're kind of, and anything to do with it, but now that we're kind of coming up 2 years on.
Sure, which is why you're here today, because you're now supporting.
I'm delighted to do so, really
because you can step into some place that people stepped into when you needed them, and that's the beauty, as you said, of
Well, I remember, I think it was the motor neuron disease put me in touch with a particular gentleman in Limerick whose wife had it. I will say she was maybe a year and a half down the road ahead of Denise. I was able to met the man once or twice in my life, haven't really met him since, but I was able to ring him and say, hey, how did you get on with A, B, C and D? And he was able to say, answers back straight up. And I tried to, I've done it in the last year, maybe to one or two people. If they're in a jam, I let them know.
The other thing, Noel, about the disease, it hits people at different ages, doesn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have any... God, whether you're old, middle-aged, a young person, it hits you. Yeah, if you're just whatever, if it comes to your door, it comes to your door.
And the other thing is, each person with it progresses the disease in a different way. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I remember there was a particular gentleman at the time, another sportsman, a rugby involved. I think anybody in rugby would know. I think his father had it, but at the same time as Denise, involved in Munster rugby. I think he passed away very quickly after being diagnosed in under a year. I think we all read about some gentleman there who has it for 30 years and he's still going well. He just wrote a book recently. But on average, you get about a 3 to 5 year life expectancy. And
you did mention Orla Hardiman, and of course she's that renowned woman in Dublin, in Beaumont, who does all of her work about motor neurone disease, Dr. Orla Hardiman. And she's also very involved right through the whole group, of course, because
she is,
it's such a small
she's
group.
A world, I mean, I suppose Ireland really
she's
is
world
very lucky.
Renowned,
Ireland is very, very lucky to have this lady, world renowned expert. She knows everything about it. For my own particular case, when Denise was diagnosed, I used to email her when I think of it, 12 o'clock at night. And I'd have a reply by the time I get up out of bed the following morning to whatever question I had to ask. Well, she's just amazing, really.
Global Awareness Week, the 17th to the 21st of June, and really listening to you, Noel, I think we can all be much more aware. And drinking tea for MND, Motor Neurone Disease, is such, as I said, a little thing to do that might make a huge difference to somebody's life. 80% of the funding has to be fundraised. It's a big ask of people who are in difficult circumstances. But any information people like, there's a free phone there, 1800 403 403, and there's www.imnda.ie for further information. Noel, you're an inspiration to talk to. I wish we could have you here for much, much longer. And thank you very much. You came out specially from Limerick today now to talk to me here about the condition, motor neurone disease, particularly from your own